All right, welcome to linear programming. Today we're going to be looking at a few problems. I'm going to try to go through these quickly. Just a brief reminder of why you should care about linear programming. Linear programming is probably one of the first opportunities you've had to look at mathematics that is 100% in your real life. Maybe you don't like it because it's your first time seeing what mathematics is supposed to be. This is what it's supposed to be. Mathematics is supposed to impact your life. It's supposed to describe living. You're from an era of school education dictated off of state testing, which I know all of you got an email about, and that a lot of you are freaking out about these 2 math tests that Mr. Curry hasn't prepared us for. I'm going to tell you right now, don't worry about it. And I don't mean that as like, oh, don't worry about it, we'll get to it. I mean that as, don't worry about it. It is not on you. It is not something that you should be stressed about. Leave that to us. All of your teachers have been stressing about this for a long time. So don't worry about this necessarily. Focus on this linear programming. But linear programming is looking at decision making of why is it beneficial to you. Let's say you want to start a small business. You want a side hustle. You want to make a little bit of money. How should you choose to make your options? Maybe, like me, you're interested in 3D printing. It's cool to me, I love it. That if you're getting into, for me, like I love this YouTuber and his business, Galactic Armory. He makes Star Wars helmets on a 3D printer. That when you're looking into that, it's like, okay, if you have limited time, if you cannot kind of go with the more commission-based selling, if you have to produce certain products to make money, how should you order your time? Is there one that's better than another? Or another thing I used to love doing was making paracord bracelets. Or what I would do is the paracord like wrist strap that guys use on their bows when you're shooting a compound bow that holds the bow there so it won't fall off your hand after the shot. If you're shooting properly, your hand should be loose. That when you're looking at that, it's like, okay, those take different amount of time to make, they cost a different amount of money to me, and they have a different profit amount. And it's like, well, how should I decide to spend my time? Because especially when I was doing that in college, there wasn't a lot of time. I was usually doing that when I was sitting there reading a textbook. I would sit there and braid and then try to sell them. It's like, okay, well, one of those is obviously going to be more beneficial. Or maybe they're both beneficial, but only in a certain ratio. And that's what you have to think about. And that's what you have to work on. And that's what these problems are looking at. So what I'd recommend doing is for you to pause and go through this one. Read it a few times. I'm just going to go through it and fill it out and kind of talk about where this information came from. So, pause the video, read it, try it on your own, and then check back with me. So, first things first. We have 2 models, and we see that they line it up that we have the number of Vader in stock and the number of solos in stock. They already gave us this money available to purchase, which is this 205 and 350. Boom, boom, and then he has $70,000 to invest. So right there, that equation is already taken care of. You had the wonderful partner of Mr. Miller who went through and did all this work. So now when we're looking at this, the amount of sales. Anytime you see amount of whatever you're measuring, just remember, it is just X plus Y is less than or equal to the value of the limitation. I personally like to fill out this thing like this so that I just have my equations right here. And then when you solve for Y, you can come in and go, okay, I'm going to solve this one for Y, and boom, you end up with something that looks like this. That one's a little bit more difficult. Try it on your own though. Try solving this one for Y and you'll see that you get this. This other one, when I solve it for Y, is very easily just move the X over. So Y is less than or equal to negative X plus 250. So that's it. So we have our 2 from the story, and we have what are the reality bounds. reality bounds here. And these are just realistic, that if you're selling snowboards, are you going to be sitting there one day and let's say your employee, your little salesman, walks in and is like, hey boss, I bought us another Vader. Are you going to be happy? Or are you going to fire that person immediately? So realistically, you're going to fire them. So when we're looking at this thing now, okay, now we can come down and throw this into our calculator. If you're struggling with graphing this on the calculator, please come in and see me. That way we can talk through this, figure out any issues that are happening. But you should end up getting something that looks approximately like this. If you don't have something like this, you will want to talk to me quickly, just because this will make or break whether or not the question works. So this is the number of Vaders and the solo. Make sure to label your axes. It's very important to me. Next up, you're going to go through and find all of these intersections on your calculator, which, once again, if you need help with these particulars on the calculator, come talk to me, because that's a very different thing to do on the video. So come in and talk to me, but you should end up getting 0, 0, 0, 200, 250, 0, and it should be 129.41 and 120.69, I think. You might have gotten slightly different values here, but you should have something approximately like that. It might be flipped. It might be 120, 129, but I'm trying to just record this video very fast. And I want to leave some things up to you, that it's up to you to check this. It's up to you to find this value. This is just me quickly talking through it with you. So now that we have those points, our setup should be to take and plug these things in. I always like to do a little table like this, X, Y, Z equals. We need the profit. So come back up to the prompt and see, okay, where do we see the words profit? Profit, profit, awesome. So 45 for the Vader and 50 for the solo. 45 X plus 50 Y. So when we start plugging these in, we should get 0, 0, 0. Wherever my calculator is, you would plug in 0, 200, 250, 0, 129, and 120. And then plug in get values. One of these is going to be the biggest. Choose that one and write a sentence talking about it. But the thing to remember, the reason, you'll notice, I dropped the decimals. I rounded this down. Even though this is closer to 121, I rounded it down. And the reason for that is that technically that is the most profitable, but it doesn't satisfy the statements. Because unless you're a very weird salesman, you're not going to have someone walk in, say, oh, I want 0.41 of a snowboard, and cut the snowboard. You're not going to do that. You can only sell that 129 and 120. These decimals kind of get wasted away in that. Now, you're welcome. Something you could experiment with is, what happens if you take that 0.41 and put it over here? Also, this cannot be that. It has to be a 5.1 or 5.9, so that these two equal out. You can try. Round this one to 121. Have 129, 121. See what happens. Does it still meet the criteria? Is that still a point here? Try it. See what happens. Because that's what's cool about this, is there's a little bit of experimentation you can do to get an even more precise answer. But any of these options would be perfectly fine with me as being your answer, so long as you show that, like, if this one has the biggest amount of money to it, great, choose that one. Choose whichever one has the biggest number here. All right, If you need any help with this, please come in and talk to me, and I will gladly help you walk through it a bit more. Hope you're having a great day, and I will talk to you guys later.